Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cameras and Coffee. Is the time of the SLR in the past? Everyone who is a fan of Pentax will know exactly what I'm asking about, so let's figure that out. Okay, before we jump in, today's coffee is from Carabasset Coffee Company. This is their Out of Bounds, a light roast Central America blend. Steinbeck, please don't kick me while I'm drinking coffee. Tastes a bit more medium than light. It's a hair on the bitter side. All right, so this is an overdue video, and we're going to talk about two articles, and they'll be linked in the video description. The first one comes from Digital Camera World, and the second one comes from the Photographer, and they're both related to Pentax struggling to sell DSLRs. It's basically, in a nutshell, what it sounds like. All right, so from Digital Camera World, DSLRs are not what new generations are looking for. It's hard to attract newcomers, admits Pentax. We're going to get to this in a sec, because I don't think that's necessarily the best journalism that has ever been done. The byline on this is James Arteas, and then after the headline it comes up to, frankly, that's not part of our current sales strategy anymore because sales in that area are declining, says Pentax of the DSLR segment. I'm going to take issue with that because Pentax didn't say that. At least there's nothing in this or anything else I've found that makes it sound like that is an official statement from Pentax. That quote comes from Yazid Belmadi, who is the area sales manager for Ricoh, for Pentax Ricoh in France and Switzerland. Does he know what's going on? Probably. He apparently has been with Ricoh, I think in the camera, or I think his LinkedIn indicates he's been there for flirting with 2 decades. You don't get to be a regional sales manager with a company for having been there for 2 decades without having a really good finger on the pulse for what's going on. So yes, he probably knows exactly what's going on, but everything in here and everything else I've read makes it sound like that's coming from him. I'm not sure. I haven't read anything that indicates to me that that's an official Pentax statement. And that's not just a nitpicky little distinction when it comes to reporting. So if anyone can point to a source that shows that is an official Pentax statement and I just missed that, please drop a link in the video's description. Now, so there's a bunch of different quotes on here, like basically, in a nutshell, what Belmadi is indicating in this interview that this is quoted from is that people coming into the world of digital cameras today grew up on screens. They don't want an optical viewfinder. Makes complete sense. Actually, it's not just young people who don't want an optical viewfinder anymore. Quite frankly, as we get older, it gets harder and harder to use an optical viewfinder. Wearing glasses with an optical viewfinder is actually not fun at all. So that's a big part of it. There's another thing of it that's not talked about in here that makes DSLRs harder to manufacture is the added mechanical complexity of the mirror, okay? Because the timing on that has to coincide with the whole action of the photograph. And because of the mirror slap, if you don't have a really nice mirror mechanism, you can introduce unneeded camera shake and things like that. So all the standard sort of drawbacks that have always been with SLRs exist with DSLRs. So it's an interesting read, this article, and it's worth looking at. The takeaway is that particularly younger customers don't want a DSLR, and that optical viewfinders just simply don't resonate with consumers in general anymore. I completely agree with that. I don't think anyone out there who knows anything about photography or the camera market would look at that statement and say that it is anything other than 100% correct. So there's a hot take on this from the Photographer. This was written by Nilofer Khan. This came out actually in October, so again, old news here. But the basic gist of this article, which is again linked below, is Ricoh should look at making the medium format SLR market, medium format DSLR. I know there have been calls over the years that Ricoh should make a 6x7 DSLR. No one's spending 50 grand or whatever it would cost for that. I mean, so the bigger the sensor is, the more expensive it is, obviously. And a big part of that is because of the way that it's manufactured. Whenever you make a sensor, there's a certain number of pixels in that sensor that can come off the factory line and be dead, and it's still within spec. I don't know what that number is, but it's some number. If you have a small sensor, if you have a wafer that is a certain size, and you divide that into micro four thirds sensors, you get a lot of micro four thirds sensors. So if you have a clump over here of dead pixels, you lose one sensor, no big deal. In the cost of manufacturing, that's just built into it, it's not an issue. APS-C, bit bigger, full frame, bit bigger, right? So like if you have that same size area of sensor manufacture, and it doesn't work like you don't make a sensor and then cut it up, but this is an illustrative explanation. But if you have like a bunch of sensors on the same board, and there's the same area of dead pixels, well, you lose one micro four thirds sensor, but you still have maybe like 40 more, okay? You lose one APS-C sensor, but you might still have 30 more. You lose one full frame, but you might still have 18 or however many more. You lose one medium format sensor, you might have 3 more, right? So you've lost 25% of your sensor building profit potential versus 5% or whatever, made up numbers for illustration only. So that's a big reason why medium format sensors are more expensive, is because they still have to meet the same criteria, and if there's enough dead pixels, it's just not a sensor that meets spec. It's not going to ever be used. So there's a higher waste percentage. At least that's my understanding of how that works. So at any rate, plus there's also just the raw cost of a medium format sensor. Just the amount of space that goes into it, the number of pixels on it is higher. It just costs more to make that. So I know people, and I don't know that this article is saying there should be a 6x7 medium format camera. I don't think that is ever going to happen, not with the way sensor technology works now, because the sensor would just be too expensive. I recall reading an analysis of the potential for a 6x7 format, full frame, medium format SLR. This was 2020, 2021, I think. And the analysis back then, maybe earlier, but the analysis back whenever I read this was that it would cost $35,000 to $40,000 just to make the sensor. Just, like the whole rest of the camera still has to be made. So even if costs have come down commensurate with the rest of the market and sensor manufacturing and all that jazz, we're still looking at a camera that would cost more than a really, really nice brand new car. I just don't think the market is there for that. So should Ricoh make a medium format or a crop sensor medium format, like a Fuji GFX sensor size or Hasselblad sensor size, Pentax 645? That actually would be kind of cool. It would still, and the prices on those have come down. My GFX 50S2 I bought used for about $3,000. New, I think they go for $3,800 with a lens, give or take. The prices on those, of course, change over time. But a handful of years ago, those were $5,000 and up. You can still spend 10 grand, 15, 30 grand on a medium format digital camera if you want to, you just don't have to anymore. So the prices on that have come down, and that could make a revisit of the 645Z series viable. Will it happen? See, I don't know. I don't think it would. If I were Ricoh, I'm not sure I would ever re-release another medium format digital camera. It's been roughly a decade since the last 645 digital format came out from Ricoh, which means that those are very old and long in the tooth cameras. The customer base who was using those, if they needed a new camera and did not want to buy a new old stock or a used camera, has moved on to Fuji or Hasselblad. If you go 10 years without releasing a new camera in a certain format, there's going to be a decent amount of customer loss because they're going to need to upgrade and they're going to go elsewhere. The same is about to be true of the Pentax K1 series, because how long has it been since the K1 II came out? I want to say about 6 years, 6 years, something like that. So I don't know if there's going to be another Pentax full frame DSLR. Honestly don't. But the photographer article goes on to say something I do strongly agree with. Ricoh knows film photography is here to stay. And I think Ricoh, if that is really what Ricoh believes, and I don't see a reason to think that they don't, I think they're right about that. The Pentax 17 sales have apparently been phenomenal, way beyond expectation. Also, a lot of the Ricoh compact cameras, like the GRs and the weatherproof WRs or whatever they are apparently doing quite well also. I think that film, if someone told me that in 3 years, that Ricoh and Pentax would be known for their compact digital cameras and their film cameras only, I would completely believe that. I could see that as a viable future, and as Ricoh has stated time and again, with Pentax, they see that as a niche market, a profitable niche product. Low sales, high margins, and if they are really the only consistently produced film camera maker in the industry anymore, I think that's a place that would be very good for them. And if they do get that 35mm SLR out, especially if it has the KAF4 mount on it, then all of the digital lenses that were made for the K1 series would work on that. And I really hope that happens. It would be nice to have a 35mm SLR that can use the digital Ricoh lenses. So that's my take on the future of the DSLR, is that as a digital medium, the SLR probably doesn't have that much of a future left, if any. As a film option, I think there's still room there for Ricoh to have a unique offering that could have some good market share. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you in the next video.